as you know, most of you anyway, I had a very privileged to take a trip to the southern border to Kelley, Texas. We actually flew out Friday morning. It was sort of a whirlwind trip, and it was hectic trip. I was really gone about a day and a half. I got back 11:30 last night to Lakeland. We flew out of Lakeland, and then get to bed at 1:30 this morning. And the night before, there was no sleep because there was logistical reasons for that, which I'll tell you about in a moment. And I got a roaming mic. Pastor Wayne, you think you could be the roaming mic guy? Because I know there's going to be a lot of questions. And I am on information overload, so I may have to refresh my memory on things. I have plenty of notes that I took, and we actually had a debriefing and everything, so I could organize my notes. So I'm going to try to answer your questions and give you a clear picture. But it was an eye-opening trip. Like I said, it was we were with all pro passes. We can put the first picture up there, Jay. They rented a plane. They chartered a plane for us because of there's no major airport into that area. So that was us on early Friday morning going out to the plane. The night before we were to leave, a man, the company that were going to fly us over there was bought out by another company. And so they couldn't honor our contract. Literally, this was Thursday. And so they're about to call us and basically tell us, there's no trip. We don't have a plane to get you over there. And you couldn't take a commercial flight because it would you'd spend a whole day traveling, and we would have lost all the time that we needed. And so all pro pastors, Paul called a few people, called a fella, and then that was meeting us there, Todd Lamphere, which is the guy who works in the White House liaison office for religious affairs and things like that. And they found some people. He knew some people that knew some people that knew some people, and so they paid an extra, I think, $8,000 to $10,000, and got us that plane. And so that was, we didn't know any of that was going on until yesterday, that even had even happened. What I like about that, there's no TSA. I could carry my pink Swiss Army knife on there without being confiscated, something like that. So that was good. And I could get right on there. Yep, I could carry my own water, everything already opened. I could carry it on there. You walked out. Lakeland's a small airport. It was early in the morning. We jumped on the plane, and because of the weather that you guys have been having, we couldn't fly across the Gulf. We had to go up to Louisiana, refuel because it didn't have enough fuel, and then go back down into Brownsville, Texas. So, and that was it was nice. That part of it was nice. In Brownsville, we were greeted by a beautiful white van with not a van, but a travel coach, leather seats, cool, and it was 105 degrees when we got there. It was like walking around with people following with a blow dryer in your face the whole time. It was honestly, it felt like that. You walked outside, it was, everything just got dry. My hair got wet and dry, just like that. Just like that. It was amazing. It's amazing. And so there was they brought us right from the airport. It was only a 15-minute drive to we were staying in a campground, a Christian campground, which I realize now this group is very interwoven with the Border Patrol and the government and how they use their properties. They have numerous campgrounds. This is where I stayed. Put that picture up with the bunks, if you can find. There it is. So, yeah. I was only bottoms. Now my bunks are farthest left over there. You see how neat it is, and I won't tell you which bunk held a guy. He was one of the pastors from Tampa, who had the most incredible set of lungs, and gifted by God. He was gifted by God or some spiritual agency. I'm not sure. It was God that gifted him. So there were 7 of us in the room. 6 of us didn't sleep that night. We were pretty much awake all night long, just looking. We were tired. I was just looking. After a long day, it was a long day. It's an hour time change there. So we ate lunch there. Food was amazing. They cook amazing food there. We went to. Oh, during lunch, Ron Vitale. Do I have Ron's picture? You see, yeah, he used to be the former director of ICE and the former director of the border station that we actually went to, the number one in McAllen, Texas. You guys recognize him at all? He's on CNN, Fox, all the news stations all the time as a commentator on what's really happening. Trump nominated him for head of ICE, and he withdrew the nomination. I guess he wanted somebody tougher. He's he's a great guy. I used it all day yesterday. I got a lot of chance to hang out with him, listen to him talk. He knows what's going on backwards and frontwards inside the border, which was his biggest background, and then he worked with ICE after that and Homeland Security. So, and ICE is the folks that sort of enforce the laws on the national immigration. So he was our first speaker. He spoke at lunch, and he was on Fox the night before, talking about some of the things we talked about there. He was a very approachable, very, very nice guy. So after lunch, we jumped into our nice air conditioning van. We went to that's the busiest station in the United States, I think it is, at least on the border, and we met the Border Patrol. It met a lot of agents there. It was a enlightening trip. We had the deputy. I don't know what my next picture is, Jay, but let me keep that up there for a bit, and I'll talk about that in a moment. We met with the deputy director of the Border Patrol, and that in McAllen, Texas, which is again the busiest border place in the United States. And we saw things that we couldn't take pictures of. He showed us some things that were I would say mildly classified. Some of the things they faced, what they face on the border. Last week they had a Border Patrol boat on the Rio Grande take 56 shots from a machine gun that was in an island in the middle of the Rio Grande, middle of the night. They hit it with 56 different shots and no one got hurt. And they sped through it and got out of there. That's what they're supposed to do. Not sure who fired the shots. They were gone by the time they came back. The Mexicans patrol that too, but they have these basically gunboats, and our Border Patrol guys are more like a fishing boat. But they're just there to pick up folks and do what they need to do. But this fella showed us pictures of things that they have seen, told us some just gut-wrenching stories of vans full of deceased immigrants being smuggled in, showed us pictures of it. And it was pretty graphic and pretty take your breath away type of stuff. They showed us pictures of, and I'll show you where that happened, I think, where the mass migration of immigrants back in April and May, if you remember that in the news, when the real crisis was happening, where that actually took place. We were right there where that actually took place, where there's just literally thousands of people lined up. The Border Patrol was just picking them up with buses and bringing them to this processing place where we would show you. Let me give you some of the statistics. This is basically in 2019 so far. There's been 800,000 people apprehended. The population of St. Pete's 500,000. So 800,000 people is actually more than that. In May, they averaged 4,800 people a day were being apprehended in May. Now, I went to the place where they process these folks. It's not that big. It was not meant for 4,800 people. It's probably meant for 800 people. And they couldn't they had warehouses next to them, and they couldn't get the warehouses to help them because Congress wouldn't approve the money. And when they finally they kept calling it the supplemental. And so when they finally get the supplemental funding that they finally approved, they were able to get the warehouse next to them and a second warehouse and immediately get it ready within 3 days for peoples. And that helped really alleviate the problem. There was this, no one said anything political, but there was this underwriting current there if that we don't like Congress. Because they really have made their jobs very, very difficult. And everything, we were there, I'm digressing a little bit, so we could come back and tell the truth. Because they know they're not getting the truth from the politicians, they know they're not getting truth through the media. And they named all these false reports in the media, the whole big thing with AOC. I'll talk about that in a little minute. The truth behind these things, which was gets you mad. It really gets you mad that the American people really don't know what's going on there. Um, a third, a third of the arrests. This is all up from 2014, when the Obama administration made the rule, and he built the initial pods. The press calls them cages, by the way. That was built under the Obama administration, not the Trump administration. And they're not inhumane. I'll tell you about that in a moment. The third of the is all up again for 2014, where we made a basic law: if you show up with a child, you get let in. So sounds very humane, but what that did was create a thing where the kids become black market for kids. Yeah, rent a kid, and because that's your ticket. That's your ticket for staying in the country. Didn't take long for people to figure that out. So in 2014, as it spiked, in this past year it exploded, and there was a reason for that. I'll get to that in a moment. A third of the arrests by ICE on gang arrest in the United States, a third of the arrests are due to illegal immigrants. So what happens with these people who get into the country illegally? A third of the arrests are illegal immigrants. So in other words, a lot of these folks aren't doing our country any favors by being here. So it gives you an idea of the number of crime. The countries that are sending us, where we're getting folks from, don't necessarily want their folks to leave, because we're getting all their youth. We're getting all their young folks, and they don't want to lose that generation. So they've actually been pretty cooperative. And I may repeat myself some, because some of this information just weaves together. You can't really separate it. There is the three main. Mexico isn't the problem. Mexico is the solution. Okay, they are actually helping us in a grand scale right now. We couldn't do what we're doing without Mexico. Guatemala's been helpful. Some of the reasons why they're so helpful is we're going to tax their goods if they didn't help us. So I don't know if we twisted their arm, but they responded well to the arm twisting. And the three main places we're getting these immigrants from are from they call it the Southern Triangle: San Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. That's where they're getting them from. And these folks are paying big bucks to get into the United States to human smugglers and human traffickers. This country, that picture up there, is all the countries where been apprehended on the southern border in the last year. That gives you an idea. It's not just those countries, but you can see the countries, and you can see the ones in red which promote terrorism. And those are people from those countries that we have been able to pick up since they've come in. I mean, even Great Britain. I don't know why someone from Great Britain tried to break in, but they did. And but you can see again, the ones in red are potential terrorist countries that could send bad guys, really bad guys, into our country. The cartels not only sell drugs in the United States, they smuggle people in the United States. Their smuggling business, they've estimated to be worth billions of dollars to the cartels. And they are basically the number one problem behind the whole surge in April, and I'll show you what I mean by that. A lot of talk about the walls. A wall is a good idea. They all say it's a great idea. Where there are walls, it's helped. But they'll slow them down, but it won't stop them. What it'll do is the wall will keep out a lot of drugs, because you need vehicles to carry the drugs across. So a wall would stop that. But there's the ways they get around the walls. They even climb over them sometimes. But 40% of the Border Patrol, and this is what happened this spring, 40% of the people were not doing their jobs, which is police work. They're policemen. Because they were overwhelmed with the care of the immigrants coming into the center. Border Patrol agents with full firearms and stuff were changing diapers, feeding babies with bottles, helping little kids, giving them juicy boxes and stuff like that. And so they're supposed to be out there catching the bad guys, but they couldn't. They were overwhelmed, and they're crying, "We need help, we're overwhelmed," and no one's helping them. So we sent the Coast Guard down. They're still there. Met many Coast Guard personnel there. They do a lot of aerial work. The local police helped come in, and McAllen Police, the state police, the National Guard, the military, all showed up down there to give relief to the Border Patrol, and they're still there. And they said we couldn't have did it because that's the only thing we could do, because we couldn't get anything out of Congress to solve the problem. So they solved it themselves. So that was the biggest problem is, well, let me just get to this point now, and I'll probably revisit it later. The drug dealers were doing an end around. They would help all the immigrants come in over here, overwhelm the Border Patrol agents, just like they did successfully, and take the drugs in over here, because there wasn't enough agents to stop the drugs. Now, they couldn't patrol this part of the border. And so the whole thing was really around getting drugs in the United States. And not only were they getting paid to smuggle people in, and that varies per place, per whatever, they're getting big bucks for that to get them into the United States. It gave them the ability to keep on their drug trade because we couldn't police that part of the border, because we didn't have enough Border Patrol agents, because they were changing diapers and doing stuff like that. It was quite a perfect storm that took on our country here. 42,000 people that we know of last year, this year alone, 42,000 have got away. In other words, we know they came in, we couldn't apprehend them, and we can't find them. It's like 42,800 or something like that. That's a pretty scary number. That's a pretty scary number. Those are guys that don't want to get caught. Most of the immigrants coming across the border, they are dropped off, they get into the United States, and they're looking for the green shirts. That's the Border Patrol. They're waiting to be, especially moms with small children and families, they're waiting to be, they want to be arrested. They want to be processed. They're safe here. They weren't safe where they were at. They are, the journey to the border is sometimes life-threatening. Now on to the next picture. That was the deputy director of the whole area. He's the one who briefed us. And again, there's pictures down there I couldn't show you, so I just isolated on him. Okay, next pic. Okay, then we went on, let me think. Okay, this was after we went to the processing center. This was the place where the whole world is looking in. Actually, the Border Patrol agents make their arrests and their stops, and they bring them to the processing center. And that's the place that got overwhelmed. They said it was probably a calm day there today, the day we were there. They were going to process about 800 arrests the day that we were there. There were 1,200 people in the facility. Many would be moved out that day. More would be coming in. It's just a cycle that goes in. And that's where it's so diverse. It's hard to even understand everything they face and what they've had to do. That was the place we couldn't take pictures. That's where AOC went, and that's where Vice President Pence was there, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. They toured the same facility. That's one of the media showed the cages. You know, they're actually called pods, and they were built, again, by the Obama administration. And then when they got the new warehouse, they put in 6 more very large ones where they could house that many people with guard towers right in the middle. So somebody comes into the border, and again, this is very, very diverse. I mean, because every case is so different. A mom, let's use this, a mom comes in with 2 little children, that's sort of an easy one. They're going to come in, the first thing they're going to do is get something to eat and drink. Then they'll be brought they'll be for an agent, and they'll get their names and any documentation. Many of them comes with documents, some don't. If the mom presents birth certificates for the children, let's say from Honduras, we have the technology now with these countries, we can have that birth certificate confirmed within 60 seconds. We'll know it's them or not. If we question the parenting, whether the parent's actually related to the child or not, this was in the last 2 weeks, we have a DNA test, and this takes 90 minutes to determine if there's any relation between the parent and the person. 30% of the kids coming in are not with their parents. 3 out of 10. They're being smuggled in they found 700. This year they've tracked 700 kids that came through the system, were processed, released into the United States with a sponsor or family member, to show up 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks later with another adult claiming to be family. And they're rotating. They basically came in, released them, they flew them back to their country, drove them there. They rented them out to another guy who wanted to get in the States, because if you show up, you get let in, and they fly. The same child comes back. But now our cybermetrics we have and our testing, we know who these kids are. So when they show up again, we know immediately that they've already been there and we got them. They do the eye, what do they call it, the eye thing? Yeah. So the kids look into it, so that automatically comes up. Again, the technology is pretty impressive. So these things, these holes are being buttoned up pretty tight now. They're not getting away with it like they were just, but we didn't have any of that in place 3 months ago. This is how quickly, that's where I think $4.3 billion went, is to get this stuff up and running so we could police the border better. So that's, this is the busiest station. I'm just going down. I want to make sure I get. There's 55. There's 6 different line stations. This was just the one furthest over, but that's 6 more in the area that goes down. There's 55 miles of fence in Texas. They need more. I'm just going through some of my notes here. I told you about the end around. I told you about the pictures. They had one cars fleeing across the border, and the border agents are chasing some people through the bush, and they almost tripped over a baby that they just laid down. They just brought the baby in, and they laid the baby. The baby was fine, but it was just a baby. And they picked up the baby and brought it back to the border station and took care of the baby until they could find a permanent place for the baby to go. I didn't know anything about it. It's just a baby. Who did it belong to? Where did it come from? They don't know. The people got away. There was 316 arrests made this year alone. There's 316,000 arrests made this year alone. There were 162,000 last year. So you over double, just about double the amount of arrests this year over last year. Again, Guatemala, Salvador, Honduras, 90% of all the illegals. In May, it was 2,400 a day. When we were there, they processed 800. That was the estimate for that day. That's a lot of people to be brought out of the bush across the Rio Grande, to bring in, find out who they are. When they come in, first of all, most of them want to be there. They come in, they get their juicy boxes, they get the initial processing they go through. They do separate families if they have to, and they do it for numerous reasons. If a child comes in very sick, they do an immediate medical exam. If there's lice, if there's scabies, or there's a high fever, over I think 102, they put them into a sick place where they take care of them. We have ambulances. We bring them to the hospital. They need to go. Sometimes they can be right there and do mild stuff right there. And so if a teenage boy comes in with his parents, the teenage boys will be put over here as they're being processed. Now this part of processing will last probably under 3 or 4 hours. And they'll be here, and they'll see their family less from here to halfway up the other side of the chapel. There's, I think, 8 pods where they're staying there. One of the funny things is they all were wrapped up in blankets. There was 105 out. And I was warm in there. I was sweating a little bit. It was like 75 maybe in the center. They've been outside for days. And they were in air conditioning. 75 was like freezing to them. And which were like, are you kidding me? Yeah, they're like, really, they have so they get all that stuff. They are given showers. We take their clothes, and Border Patrol agents wash their clothes for them. They get all the food they basically want. They have 3 beautiful meals a day, and then snacks all day and water all day. They're given a blanket. They're given a mattress, and they get clean. Then they're given brand new shirt, brand new jeans. I was told they cost like $30 a pair. Jerseys, T-shirts. They have just cases, 15 feet high of these things, all different colors, all different sizes, from toddlers to adults. They pick out their shoes, brand new shoes, brand new underwear, brand new socks, all in the package. And they all get that, and they get their clothes laundered while they're there. This is the 3 days they're there. This is what happens. The inhumane thing that we put these people through. There's flat screen TVs in the cages where they can watch TV. Think they're watching TV out in the bush, walking there, or in the back of a van of a human smuggler? There's no TV there, nothing there. So every need is taken care of. Again, this was a processing station. This was not supposed to be a housing station. This was processing. In 3 days, every one of those people will be gone someplace. I mean, that's the question. Where are they going to go? So when I walked in, and they were just a whole bunch of families. There were moms with little kids, and I was walking by, and they just got out of the shower. They're all clean. They had got their new clothes, and they were waiting for their laundry to come out so they could I watched Border Patrol agents with the laundry. We're walking by the reception area where they actually bring the people in, and it was a sight. Again, I wish I could have taken pictures. They just wouldn't let us. A Border Patrol agent with a shotgun over his shoulder and fully armed comes walking in with a mom and two little kids, and just walking in and brings them over, gets them a juice box. The little kids are like out of their minds and stuff like that. And the agent who runs the whole place said, one thing we got to change is the juice boxes. He goes, these kids don't ever get sugar, and when they get sugar, they're like bouncing off the walls. We got to get them something different that they're not juice boxes. So it's he goes, they have two kids. So he told a story that really was brought him to tears when he told us the story. He had a 13-year-old come in with a 6-year-old brother, unattended, minor, no adults. They had been walking and traveling for 10 days. A lot of it walking, some of it in the back of trucks and stuff. Their parents paid somebody to smuggle them in. The last 3 days, the 6-year-old couldn't walk anymore because his feet were all swollen and cut up and everything. So 3 or 4 days. So the 13-year-old carried him on his back to the U.S. border, and this guy was in tears, telling us, he goes, I wasn't going to let that 13-year-old do another thing with that kid. I assigned one agent to that little boy, the brother, and we took care of that little kid, and that 13-year-old didn't have to care for his little brother anymore. We were going to do it till we got him to the right place and stuff like that. But this little kid, that's what this bigger brother did for his younger brother, which takes your breath away if you think of it. I'm going to show you some pictures of some of the terrain they walk through to get there. If there's no room, one of the things we do now is put an ankle bracelet on them and we release them. They say, let's go someplace, we put it so we know where they're at. 3,000 agents, 50% show up with a child. That was the number. 1% in the year 2000 showed up with a child. I told you about that. I told you about the DNS testing. 33% of the kids have no relatives. Mexico and Guatemala has been very helpful and worked really well with us. They were told that Guatemala has the best consulate. They have a line of phones 10, 15 feet long in that center where they can go right in and call their consulate and talk to their government anytime they want. Just press a button and you get the Guatemalan whatever consulate. Again, these people aren't from Mexico. They're just using Mexico as a road to get to the United States. We were the only civilian group allowed in that center. Politicians, Congress, Senate can get in there. The press can get in with an appointment, but we were the only civilian group that was allowed in there. And one of the reasons is President Trump wants people to know what's really happening there, and he knows that people like me are going to come back and stand in front of people like you and tell you what's happening, because they're not going to get it from the media. There's a real distrust for the media. They say we tell people what's going on all the time, and the media they won't even cover it. They won't even cover it. The whole this is not a Democrat Republican thing for me. It's just a people thing to me. But this is how politics have just skewered. And I'm not, again, Republicans are just as bad as Democrats. Republicans hate Democrats. Democrats hate Republicans. It's so divided. This was such a fixable problem, but nobody wanted to give a win to the other side. You know, that's what the win. They didn't want the other one to win it. So there was. Let me keep my mind on the AOC, the controversial new freshman Democrat from New York. She came in and she talked to a mom right through the fence and goes, "Are you getting water?" And the woman goes, "Sí, in the baño." And every pot has its bathroom and has running water in it. And she goes, "So you're drinking water out of a toilet?" And she speaks Spanish. She knows what a baño is. And our Spanish speaking, I met the border agent. I didn't meet him, but her was standing 5 feet from me, and I said, "That's the woman that was standing next to her." She goes, "No, that's the baño is the bathroom. We have running water in the bathroom over in pod." And so she kept yelling it out. "Oh, she's drinking water out of the bathroom, out of the toilet," and then went home and said it to the press, and the press blows it up. No, it was the whole thing was like, this is why that's why I was there, because they're like, "My God, what are they trying to do to us here?" And now, guys, this is at 11:10, almost 11. I usually close 11:15, 11:20. I can keep this up. We can break it off, and I can get in, cut my message down. You want me to continue? Continue. Raise your hand. Continue. Continue. Okay. Shut up and preach. Raise your hand. Two people shut up and preach. Okay, shut up and preach. Some of you are saying just shut up, not to preach. No, just shut up. And so there's, okay. So, new clothes, told you about that. So they come in and they get an asylum hearing, and this is the trick, and then they get released to a sponsor or a family member in the United States. The problem with an asylum hearing, it's 2 to 4 year wait for the asylum hearing. And asylum in the United States is very hard to get. You have to have a good career. You need to have a reason or be under political pressure at home. You just can't ask for asylum because you don't like your country and there's no good jobs there. That's not reason for asylum. And so 90%, over 90%, 93% of asylum hearings get sent back to their countries. Again, problem is they're released in the United States. They may be here 2, 3, 4 years before the hearing comes up. So the hearing date comes. Are they going to show up in court? No, because they're going to be sent back. They know they're going to be sent back. They can reapply, but the whole process goes through again. Unless you have reasons, they're not going to get through. So they get married, they have children, and which I'm not saying I blame them. I'm just saying that's what happens, and so they end up staying in the country again. Now, again, I don't. If I lived in Guatemala and had a fear for my life with street gangs, and I could come to the United States and get treated like that and have a job, I think the estimate was so many billions of dollars are shipped back to these countries from workers in the United States. Billions and billions of dollars. Again, ICE can't find them. ICE is people who will go try to pick them up. There's always exceptions to these things. They separate kids because of age, and this is, again, no more than 3 days. Sickness, verification of facts, that's a big one. I mean, and that's getting quicker now. In other words, who really belongs to who here? Are these really brothers and sisters? Well, we can find that out now relatively quickly, but we couldn't 2 months ago. We couldn't find that out. Many 10 days journey. They got brought over in boats, they're brought over in trucks, and they're basically just dropped at the border and said, "Go look for a green shirt." And those are the people, the poor people, the people who just want a better opportunity, not the criminals. Some of them paid $3,000 just to get here, which would be a year's salary for them just to get to the United States. But once they get here, they get a shower, they get food, they have opportunity, and things like that. And the other reason why they might separate them is some of these nationalities don't get along with one another. I'm not sure exactly which ones don't like each other, but you can't. This isn't the countries, but you can't put a Honduran with a Guatemalan. They may not, especially boys. They may get violent with one another. So they have the cages just so they can see, and the women prefer that because there's privacy in there because they're safe. There's so many of them are sexually assaulted on the way to the border that when they finally get to the United States and have these Border Patrol agents treat them with the dignity they get treated with and taken care of, they feel safe, and they're so grateful to be there. When I walked by that row of young ladies and their children, all the kids are like just grinning from ear to ear, waving at me. And I couldn't, I just want to smother them, and you can't touch them. You can't, it's almost like it is with a foster kid. You can't really do anything, but I'm just walking by. And all the guys were, and stuff like that. And the kids like, they're waving back to the juice box. Drinking the juice box down. You get crackers in this hand all mashed in their hand. They're all happy. And the moms are smiling because they're clean, and they have clean clothes and new clothes, and their kids are safe. And they're on, and in 3 days, they're going to be out of there. I mean, they'll be someplace else in 3 days. So any questions on that? Let me start questions. So Andre, you had one. Let me, because of webcasting, I know a lot of people are listening on webcast. Andre had a question down here. Good question.
How are the local churches involved down there?
That's a really good question. We can't really help them in this where they process. That's a government thing. But when they get out of there, they sometimes need a place to go. And that was actually my next thing I was going to bring up, what happens to them after that. But the number one area, the churches are the number one people helping these people, or somewhat helping them, or at least letting the government help them through their facilities or something like that. Mother, I forget her name, she was a nun who had a facility there that housed, I think, 230 people. And she's like 5 miles from where we're at. And they had the story was the other day was they had no place to bring these 100+ people. So they were bringing them to the border, to bring them back to the border to go, because they hold them now, too. And so everyone's calling. There's a phone. They're calling different pastors who call the pastor, who call the pastor, who call the pastor. And how long do I have to make this decision? You have 5 minutes, because they'll be at the border in 5 minutes. So he calls one other person, and they said, what did God tell us to do? Bring them in. So the bus shows up, and 120 people got off the bus, or buses showed up, and they, to my knowledge, are still there at that church in the interim, and the church is taking care of them all, stuff like that. So the church on both sides of the border are, the government's can't do it. I mean, they're not designed to do it. They're adjusting themselves, but that doesn't happen overnight. I mean, like they get that warehouse. When they finally get the money to supplemental, I mean, they went in there like gangbusters and just blew that place out in 3 days. 24/7 crews were in there building this stuff and bringing the technology in and the pods, and they had to put ceilings over the pods because they were crawling out. One jumped over the fence, took a broom hand, dropped this baby over here. Not dropped him, put him down. He was 2 in the morning. He wouldn't put the baby down for bed. They kept questioning his time. Put the baby down. He said, really agitated, puts the baby down, climbs the fence in a split second. He was over the fence and starts breaks a broom handle over his leg as a spear, and heads for the door. And then a Border Patrol agent tries to head him off, and he's trying to stab the Border Patrol agent. That did not end well for him, but he was subdued pretty quickly. But that'd be an exception, because he's one of the people that normally don't end up there. Usually you're going to get there are families and kids and stuff like that. Johnny, I'm going to talk. I have to really give you the Harlington story too. That was amazing. Go ahead.
So are they? Let's say they change their mind. They go to this place.
Say that again.
If they change their mind and want to go back, are they free to go back where they came from?
Well, sometimes, because we have the joint databases, so we can find out if there's criminals wanted in Mexico too. So sometimes they're very happy when we send them because they've been looking for these guys and stuff like that. So it's interesting how that works. And let me finish the rest of this because I'm leaving some of these questions will be answered when I do that because it's actually a pretty amazing system that works. Because what happens now is people will come in, again, most of them will have, if they're coming through the migration center, they have someplace to go most of the time, but not all the time. If they come in, a child will come in, birth certificate, da, da, da. He goes, I have a relative in New York, my aunt. Okay, so what we have to do is locate that person. They'll oftentimes have a phone number and everything. Well, the Border Patrol leaves a number, no one calls back. Leaves a number, no one calls back. Leaves a number, no one calls back. So the child's still there until you're not going to just send them out in the street until you actually can locate this. And you finally locate the person, then you got to verify that, okay, who is that person really a relative? So then you have to go through that process. And if they're out of state, then you have to find people up there. It's complex. It's complex. When you have a moderate idea that they're verified, then you'll take, let's say it's a 6-year-old boy. A Border Patrol will actually be like more of a social worker, will jump on an airplane and fly there with this child, hand deliver them to their so-called maybe relative, and interview the relative there to make sure they get good vibes from the whole thing. And if they don't, they put the child back with them and take them back home, back to Texas. And if not, they'll leave them there if they feel like this is legitimate and the kid recognizes them and stuff. Then they'll let the child stay there and stuff like that. We have an amazing government. I'm telling you about what we're doing. What's the next? This the bush. Just what they walk through to get there. That was a mild picture. Some of it was even more scruffy than that. Can I show the next picture, Jay? Oh, that's amazing. That's some of our new tech we have. That wasn't around just in the last few months. That's a camera. There's 7 of those that cover 3 miles or 21 miles area it covers. There's a camera on there morning, noon, and night, midnight. It can take high-def pictures of anyone coming over the border, and it gets instantly transferred over to the Border Patrol, and they can go right exactly where the picture's taken, and they can apprehend the folks. And it's a electronic barrier there. See the next picture? Okay, did we have the picture with the car on the wall? Did we already go by that one? I don't know if I gave you that, I thought. That's where the kids go. That's the other one. There is there it is. That's that wall. That's the wall in that area. That wall's been there. That's not the Trump wall. That's been there for years. That's 20 feet high. That's a Border Patrol truck that drives back and forth on top of the wall. Yeah, driving. Yeah, it's like more of a wider. It's like a little road up there. We went right by it. Yeah, we were wondering. We were in this big truck. It would have been a little scary, but it was. They said one of the things they were doing is catching folks. They come in from the Mexican side, which is the brush, and they come in with 21-foot ladders, and climb up the ladder, wait on top of the wall, and it has to be done quick. And then they take, when the 6th, 7th person got up there, there's never just one, took that many to carry the ladder, and they would pull the ladder up, put it down on the other side of the wall, and get down. Problem is those cameras saw the first guy that got up on top of the wall, and by the time the 6th person gets on top of the wall, they're arrested. That's how quickly they can respond to that area. I saw people swimming in the Rio Grande River, and Mexicans swimming on the Mexican side. That was a narrow part, and those are pretty well established. They weren't trying to escape or anything, but what they like to do is take their inner tubes and go halfway across the river, say we're in America, and then quickly go back. It's just like a game to them, the teenagers do that stuff like that. So they illegally immigrate for like 6 seconds, and then they run back to Mexico where they don't get any trouble anymore, stuff like that. So it's pretty funny. But that's the wall in that area. And again, they like the walls because it keeps trucks driving across with people and drugs, and that's the number one reason why the wall. Okay, we can go back to where we're at. Okay, so what happens to the kids that don't have parents and they don't know where to send them yet? they're sent to this place. This is in Harlington, Texas, 45 minutes up the road. And I would equate it to, I'm obviously was involved with Hannah Grace Homes. It's basically a big group home. This particular home has 590 beds. We ate dinner there. We had salmon, choice of salmon or chicken breast. I got the chicken breast. And asparagus and shrimp, roasted potatoes, dessert, and there was some other part of the meal. But it was amazing. That's what the kids ate too. Kids ate the same thing. It's that's the ping pong room. There's the gym, which just putting AC in that, and there's all rooms around there. What's the next picture? And that's just one of the dorms. And we got to walk through them. We couldn't interact with the kids. They get the U.S. government provides this federal money, $250 a day per child. That place has a $54,700,000 a year budget. Their ratios are less than the restrictions on them are less than they were on us when we had the Florida State group home here. The problem is the kids don't really, they love it there. They get educated, they eat, they're safe, there's sports, there's everything they want, and again, they have to be out of the processing center in 3 days. So they have no place to send these kids. They can't locate that. They send them here. That was made just for boys. They send younger kids somewhere in South Florida. There's different places around the country where they send all these kids. Most of the children will only be there for 10 days. They'll find their place of destination. That's a Category 1. Let me get through the categories here. So I wrote all that down. The Category 1 kids, they have a parent in the United States. They just haven't been able to get them to the parent yet, or have to reunify them with a parent. Category 2 is a family member. They have to get the family member, verify it's a family member. Category 3 is a vetted family friend. So Category 1s are out quick. Category 2s, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Category 3s, a month and a half. Then you have a Category 4, which is a non-sponsored child. They can't locate anybody that they can connect this child with. They usually average 15 to 17 years old. The longest residence there has been 2 years for a Category 4 child. They get full education, are very well cared for, full medical center right on the property. Again, it's state-of-the-art everything there. I mean, there's a hospital 1 mile down the road, so if there's any sicknesses, and that is an open campus. There's no fences. They can walk right out and walk away if they want. They had one runaway in 6 months. 6 months. No one wants to leave. Yeah, they have no place to go. I mean, and these kids will be, if they can't find somebody, they'll probably be returned to the country of origin, or in some cases, rare cases, they may even find an American family that take them in, something like that. But ultimately, so this place is they had 30,000 Professions for Christ. That's owned by a church. The government leases the property from the church. They had 30,000 Professions for Christ from that facility alone in the last few years. They just baptized 127 immigrants the week before we got there. They baptized them. They've given away 50,000 Bibles there in the last 7-8 years. That's an amazing place and an amazing facility. Really well run. The kids just looked happy, and again, most of the kids are there very briefly. It's just it's not a long-term thing, but there's so many coming and going, that this cycle's going on and on and on. But that was what happens to the kids. They have no place to send them to. Again, God bless the United States of America, because now what's happened, and again, I'm getting my MPP, that's it, a Migrant Protection Protocol, people seeking asylum. Now what happens, they come in, we send them back to Mexico. Mexico now takes the migrants in and cares for them. We had has some economic thing with Mexico. They're usually right on the other side of the border. And they have three options when they go to Mexico. They can wait for their asylum here in the United States, which that's not a good option because they probably will never get it. Mexico will give them a work visa where they can stay in their country and get a job and work and be part of their culture in Mexico, or they can go back to where they came from, which is the number one place they go. So that's working. That's actually working, and Mexico's working with us on that. So if they have no place that we can connect them with in America, they're not just released into America, they're actually going back to Mexico now. And that's, again, something that Mexico had to do. Asylum's not an easy thing. Yesterday we met with a Mexican who lives in the United States that has 4 or 5 orphanages under, they call them centers. I say orphanage is a bad term because they have parents and stuff like that. I mean, they take these families in and they feed them and they clothe them, and we have an American from Chicago who actually brings over food and stuff like that to him. He is back and forth it takes 4 hours to get over the border. 4 hours to get back. Not hard to get there. It's getting back is hard. Drug cartels. There was one of our churches there. A man shows up at the door. The drug cartels love what they're doing. They love the fact that kids are being taken care of and stuff like that. And so they are very protective of that, and they like to dump money into their own country because it makes them sort of a folk hero in their own country. And people, they're not enemies. They're enemies here, but they're not enemies there. So a man shows up in the office of the pastor with a briefcase full of money, just cash. So such and such, he named the cartel leader, wants you to have this. And the guy's like, he looks at it, shuts it, please, please, please. He didn't want to offend this cartel guy. I can't take this. They won't let me take this money. Please. And it says, just tell them how grateful we are. So the guy calls the cartel leader right from the office, tells me he can't take the money. And so it's quiet and goes, okay, then you tell him nothing's ever going to happen to that facility, nothing's ever going to happen to his family. I'm going to make sure of it. And it's a cartel leader. So a few months pass, and they have a bunch of young ladies staying at that place waiting for their point of destination. And a bunch of the boys in the city, especially one particularly, is being very suggestive and aggressive with the young ladies. And just go on. The pastor went over, talked to him. Somebody else went over, talked to this young boy. It's gone on for a month. And he just blows them off, swears at him, whatever, and sends them away. So they called the cartel guy and said, this guy's bothering our girls. And okay, because they have people in every city. So that young man, all of a sudden, who was at the same street corner every day, wasn't there the next day. And then 2 months later, he showed back up again. And they said, please we don't want him killed, we don't want anything like that. He goes, okay. So he showed back up again. The boy marches, first time he's in the city, marches right into the pastor's office. Said, I am so sorry for what I've done and anything I can do. Please give me my apologies to all the people I offended and I hurt and blah, blah, blah. He went to a place, I guess he stayed, called the Freezer. That's all we know. And but he became a good citizen after that. So that was pretty interesting. Yeah, he was all in one piece. He was only a teenager himself, but he had a little bit of an adjustment there. Okay, I have more to say, but I'm not going to get into that. Yesterday we had Operation Border Blessing. There it is. Then we had $100,000 worth of stuff there that we gave away to border agents and their families, and that was yesterday. And you see all the kids; those are border agent children. They're not immigrants. That's where we stayed. And we unpacked all those boxes, put everything in a pile. They drove the trucks up. We filled the trunks in the back of their vans up with a whole bunch of $100,000 worth of groceries and stuff. They got shirts, they got shoes, they got new clothes, they got backpacks. All those backpacks are full of school supplies and stuff like that, just to say thank you to the border agents. And they were in tears. We had to leave in the middle of that. We actually got back to here, so we were only watched an hour of it. Any other pictures of that? Do I have any other? I don't know if I have any more pictures. No, I don't. There was, I think, 12 inflatables, some of them 3 stories high, water park. It was 105 there. I mean, it was just hot. and you turn on the cold water. It took you literally a minute for the water to get cool. I mean, it was the cold water. I mean, I don't even want to tell you. I don't know why they even want hot water there. And anyway, another story. And but there was, but that was yesterday. And then we were debriefed yesterday, and we talked to the people from the Mexican side of the border yesterday. And then we flew home. Got home at 11:30 last night. So that, in a nutshell, I probably left out a bunch of details. But any more questions? We're not going to get. Yes, Dr. Lewis.
So, yeah, all right, I understand, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Why are the cartels so favorable? In other words, it sounds like there's this, it must be money involved for them to be that way, right?
Well, the cartels, and can everyone hear me okay back there?
I can't hear you down
Okay,
here.
you can't hear me? Okay, give me a little bit more volume, Dave, if you can. And I learned this back in the 80s when I went to Honduras. There's a man named Ramon Mata who was a big drug dealer in Honduras back then, and we arrested him. Their military came in and arrested him, gave him to us. We flew him to Miami, which was against the Honduran Constitution. And so they rioted when they did that, because I was in the country that week. They had to sneak us out. And they rioted that week because Ramon Mata built hospitals, gave food away. They actually give a lot of their money to the poor in those communities, in those countries, because the poor become dependent upon them, and the poor become their friends, and the poor won't turn them in, or anything like that. So they don't mind investing their money back into their country. They're getting all their money from the United States. We're funding them through the drug and now human trafficking thing. But the Mexican cartels are getting money from the Guatemalan families and the San Salvadorian families and what's the other country? San Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras families. So they're not even taking money from their own people. They're taking money from poor people in the other countries. And so that's why they offer protection. And most of them always want to protect kids. They just, it's one of those like mafia things. You don't mess with the kids, we mess with you, type of thing.
Quick question.
Okay.
Who pays for, who takes, if they want to get back to or they're forced to get back to their country
Yeah.
because they're really, okay, how do they get there? We fly them?
Mexico will drive them back.
They will drive
Yeah,
back.
Mexico has really stepped up to the plate. But
Okay,
I think
so we don't do that.
we don't, not in another country we won't.
Okay.
We'll bring them here and transport them here, something like that. But that whole process about them being in Mexico is,
Thank you.
that's new. That only started within the last 2 months. That's not a long-term policy we had. And that, again, when Trump did his thing with taxing them if they didn't and stuff, that's what brought that all about. They said the Mexican military work with our military, their police work with our police. They train together now. Mexico is definitely becoming our biggest ally in this whole, because there's no way for those countries to get to us except through them, and it's impacting their country just as bad. Money talks, yeah, money talks. Dan?
That orphanage that kept the young kids that didn't have anywhere else to go, do they teach them English? And is there a point of time when they get too old that they will let them go into the United States?
They won't let them go unless they have the papers to be there. They won't just send somebody out to the streets without a valid reason to be out there, without a family member or some sort of a work visa, something like that. But they have time to seek that out because they're safe there, and they're very safe there. Now, most of the kids there aren't there very long. That's almost like just a longer term processing center. Like the oldest kid resident there was only 2 years. But they get so well taken care of, and they're given the gospel there and things like that. And that is well funded through the U.S. government. Like we would get our money for integration homes through the state of Florida. They get their money right from the federal government, Health and Human Resources. So they get $250 a day per bed. So that's the difference too. We'd get $125 a day per child. They get it per bed. So they have 590 beds. So that's what they get paid for, 590 beds. They have 310 people there now, but they get paid for 590 beds. And they pay the staff. When we were there was a staff member standing in front of each room where there were kids doing whatever they were doing. And they all work for basically the government employees, those folks that work in there 1 second. That was impressive, and that was one of the more impressive ones in the country, and that just happened to be up the road from us. That's because that's where most of the biggest activity is, right there. But they're all over the country. There's 2 or 3 right in Florida, and that was teenage boys, 13 to 17. They have another one for teenage girls, 13 to 17, younger kids. They break it age group, and each place will have their own place of destination until they can find a permanent solution for them. So, U.S. government spends a lot of money on this, being as cruel as we are. So, and I'm being sarcastic. I was information overload, just hearing the different stories, and I'm trying to give you a picture of the whole system and how it works. One of the questions I had, and a lot of the pastors had, how can we in the U.S. help? And really, there's no way to help them in the detention way. There's no way to help them in the processing way. Where we can help them is we can help the ones in Mexico right now. Those places are not government supported really or anything like that. We actually have contacts named with 2 names of what we can do for that. One guy was just donated 3 semi-tractor trailer loads. I met him. He was there yesterday of pinto beans, and so they're matching that with some rice, and so these kids are going to get a lot of food. That's because the guy who runs the orphanages met the guy who has the pinto beans. They met yesterday morning, and as for the first time they actually met, and so they're putting their heads together, and so it's pretty amazing. So the kids on the other side of the border is going to get lots of food for free, and it's not going to cost them anything, and while they await to do whatever happens with them. But the Mexican churches are being overwhelmed now, so they've taken our problem. So, any other questions? I think it's only 11:30, so I can go another 45 minutes, right? Do a message. No, I'm not going to do that to you. I want to sleep. did I see a hand? Yeah, go ahead.
How long do you think we can maintain taking in, as you've mentioned, the increase over the last year or two?
There is it's decreased. The increase has decreased. It's actually that they told us at the processing center it's very manageable now, and the system of getting folks into where they need to go is more streamlined because the technology is up. We can identify people. We know who's lying to us almost instantaneously now. Within 2 hours, we know if we're being misled or anything like that. And now that the fact we're sending them back to Mexico is stemming the tide even more. That was again about a month and a half ago that we started doing that. It's all, emergency things we put in place, which administration's done a good job with that, and stuff. So the only thing I think that could set this off again is if the Mexican side of the border, where they're housing these folks that we're sending back there, gets overwhelmed, and that could happen. They don't have anywhere near the infrastructure we have. So if that area gets overwhelmed, you could see a definite crisis situation beginning to happen again. But right now, that's holding. It's probably a finger in the dike type of thing. But word gets around when you can come into a country with a child. Until we change that law, that's your ticket. But you also know now we're going to know if you're smuggling that child. We're going to know if that child's been here before. We're going to vet everything you're saying. We have instant information to your country's databases. Now, tricking us and getting in is a lot more difficult than it was. But this has been going on for years. People looking for a better life, bringing their kids in, disappearing into culture, disappearing and that's going to continue to a degree. If we can keep the human trafficking out of it and get back to patrolling our streets for drugs, keeping our drugs out and stuff like that, then that's what it's meant to be. It's tough because you can get arrested for missing your asylum hearing. That's what the big ICE raids are all about. But these folks have been in the country 3-4 years. They have jobs, they have houses. It's amazing. They're integrated into culture. And now you're basically pulling them and shipping them back home, which is legal. That's the law. That's what we're supposed to do. So if we don't do that, we're breaking our own laws, which we got to change the laws. If we're not going to do it, we got to change the laws. See, all we're trying to do is live by our own laws, and that's what we weren't doing. So this was a government screw up. I mean, it really was a political screw up. It didn't have to happen this way. Yeah. But but again, Mexico's not the problem. Guatemala's working with us, and so it has crisis stage this fall is over. We're picking up human traffickers now. The biometrics is working. The technology is on the border now, so we're picking people coming off like almost instantaneously. It's the ones that get away that's a little scary, and they're the ones. I mean, they will take a truck. They'll drive it on to have 6. I saw pictures of this. They have 6 barrels, big whatever water barrels, and they'll put planks over them, and they'll float in the Rio Grande. They'll drive a truck on it, float the truck across the river, and just drive off on the other side, full of drugs or whatever, full of people, whatever. And they showed pictures of a truck right in the middle of the Rio Grande River floating across, and guys pulling it with a rope on the other side. And they showed pictures of it. Then they showed another truck, beautiful truck, just sitting in the Rio Grande, just like that. They drove it into the river and swam across to get away from the Border Patrol. Then they showed a bunch of other pictures, which was just horrible stuff to see. Some people that just died trying to get into the United States and on the human traffickers and stuff like that. Guys, I'm done. I know it's time for service to close. It's time for Tim to take a nap and stuff like that. So let's just have just a moment of prayer. And if you guys want to come up and finish our last song, we'll take the offering. The offering will get ready. Jesus,